They were all anyone could think about during the holiday seasons of the early 2000s. The Lord of the Rings movies were like Peter Jackson's Christmas gifts to the world for the first 3 years of the new century. And for some of us, these films revived our love for J.R.R. Tolkien's amazing books, where he introduced us to the magical world of Middle-earth. Every facet of Tolkien's amazing fantasy world is described in these books, including the details of the magical objects these otherworldly beings use to wield their immense abilities. I'm talking about the Rings of Power. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, along with the additional literature about Middle-earth, describes 19 rings of power, the 9 rings of men, the 7 rings for the dwarf kings, and 3 rings for the elves. After these rings were gifted to the leaders of each of these groups, the evil lord Sauron returned to his shadowy villa on Mount Doom and made an additional ring, the one ring to rule them all.
Precious!
Even though these rings exist in a completely different world, they bear a striking resemblance to the minerals and gemstones that exist in our reality. The 9 rings of men aren't discussed in much detail in the books because, like some other notable rings, they render their wearer invisible. But in the film, when these rings and their owners are visible, they're depicted with silver or white gold bands and set with a single gemstone. These 9 rings may have been more prominent if the men of Middle-earth weren't so corruptible by Sauron's power, allowing them to become the ring wraiths or the Nazgul. On the plus side, if these menacing creatures didn't exist, we'd have no idea what pure evil sounds like. Lucky for the dwarves, the 7 rings they received did not turn them into shadowy night riders, but they did, however, plague the dwarves with crippling greed. This avarice caused them to dig too deep into the mines of Moria, unleashing the Balrog. You remember the Balrog, the giant demon creature who shall not pass! In the book, Gandalf describes the dwarf rings as a single golden ring, but in the film they are depicted with a silvery metal band, possibly mithril, which is a fictional substance found in the dwarf mines that we'll talk more about later. Each ring is set with a blue or violet stone that looks strikingly similar to the sapphire, tanzanite, or blue spinel gemstones we find on our planet. The coolest bling of Middle-earth was awarded to the Elves, and they were worn by Lady Galadriel, Círdan, and Gil-galad. Now, those last 2 elves you may not be familiar with because they later passed the rings down to Gandalf and Lord Elrond. Lady Galadriel's ring is called Nenya, and if you ask her why it's called that, she will say it's Nenya business. In Tolkien's book, The Silmarillion, this ring is described as being made of mithril and set with a white stone of adamant. Mithril is a pretty fascinating mineral that exists in Middle-earth. Gandalf describes its ability to be beaten like copper and polished like glass. He goes on to speak about how the dwarves could fashion it into metal that is very light, yet harder than steel. And even though it shimmers like silver, it never tarnishes.
As light as a feather, and as hard as dragon scales.
This description is eerily similar to the element titanium, which is much lighter than steel but is comparable to its hardness. And just like mithril, titanium is surprisingly resistant to corrosion. Funny enough, Tolkien was writing The Lord of the Rings during World War II, which is when titanium was just beginning to be used for more applications. In fact, it's so compatible with the human body, it's often used for medical implants. Nenya's stone is known to be a white stone of adamant. Most Tolkien fans agree that he is detailing a bright white diamond, since the word adamant is typically used for a stone that exhibits extreme hardness. Gandalf's ring, Narya, is a golden ring set with a deep red stone. Tolkien chose a red stone for this ring because of the fire powers that it gives the wearer. In all likelihood, Narya's stone is a deep red ruby, or heck, maybe it's a cherry red fire opal, who knows. But unless Middle-earth possesses the technology to test its atomic makeup, it's also quite possible that this gem is a red spinel. And the final and most powerful of the elf rings, Vilya, belongs to Lord Elrond. This ring gives Elrond the power to preserve, heal, and create bliss, which explains why it's set with a calming dark blue stone. And just like with Gandalf's ring, this stone is set with a glittery gold band. Vilya's stone seems to be most similar to what we would know as a blue sapphire. Hopefully Sauron never decides that Middle-earth is a lost cause and finds a way to our world in an attempt to take it over, because now that I've made this video, I'm probably contributing to his inevitable success. Do you and 8 of your buddies enjoy an immortal afterlife terrorizing hobbits? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. For more information on the topics we discussed today, check out the links below. Thanks for watching.